Hi, welcome to the show. My name is Daniel, and today we're going to talk about mental health. And we have a special guest today, Dr. Amy Friday. Hi, Dr. Amy.
Hello.
Hello. Maybe you can tell us more about yourself and your YouTube channel.
Absolutely. So I'm a clinical psychologist. I specialize in aging and brain health. And so my YouTube channel is called This Beautiful Brain, and it talks about how do we use research to help people make changes in their lives to optimize brain functioning and avoid dementia, avoid living in nursing homes, and to age well overall.
And I see that your video, like one of your video went viral, like almost 200K.
Right, right. So it was
Yeah.
very surprising.
Yeah. So maybe you can talk more about that video, like on
Absolutely.
dementia. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So it was on talking about the stages of dementia and things that people might not know about the stages of dementia. And this was a popular video for. I have a hard time finding competitors because there aren't a lot
Mhm.
of people that seem to be doing what I'm doing. The competitors that I generally have tend to be TED Talks, and they tend to be universities or medical institutions, things like that. So when I look at people who are kind of like me, one of the themes that came up is that people seem to be especially interested in dementia stages and how do you understand changes over time that happen for people when they experience dementia. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do my own take on that type of a video. So I did the stages of dementia, but I emphasized how you lose independence over time and how the mild stage of dementia is really the place to be. It's the place where you want to stay. And we want to prolong that stage as long as possible. And so I talked about ways that, that might be possible. And then talked about, how it changes into moderate and then severe dementia. And it's an incredibly popular search topic apparently. So yeah, there it just took off and it continues to glean a lot of attention. So it's been a very successful video.
Yeah, and then let's talk about those like um, after retiring, and then we can see the tremendous drop of performance, like they dropped significantly after retire. Maybe you can tell us more about those that people that retire and what are the things to avoid, what are the things to look out for.
Absolutely. Well, one of my videos talked about this idea of what's better for your brain. Should you retire and have this active, engaged life, or should you keep working longer? Is that actually healthier for your brain? And what the research, when I reviewed this particular research, it suggested that retiring early may actually be bad for you. That
Mhm.
people who have cognitively stimulating workplaces or environments or ways that they're using their brain actively. And we know that using your brain is really good for your brain. It's a healthy, protective thing, and it promotes this idea of neuroplasticity or optimizing brain cells. Neuro referring to neurons, and plasticity referring to this idea that we can impact them positively. So it talks about this idea that, we want to keep doing that. And there's lots of different ways. But for many people, when they retire, they don't retire well. They don't really plan for retirement. So without planning for it, if you just think, "Oh, I'm going to retire and play golf for the rest of my years or sit and enjoy all of my hard work in the family," or whatever it might be, that a lot of times people end up not being engaged, kind of being lonely and bored. They lose their social connections that they had at work. They lose the cognitive stimulation of all the activity that they were doing in their busy work. And so they tend to kind of go into a mode where they're not really being active and taking care of themselves, or they haven't moved on to a new stage of life. And it really takes planning and thought in terms of how do I want to continue to evolve to be able to have a successful retirement and to protect brain health at the same time?
Can you explain more about the planning? What sort of planning?
Yes, absolutely. So when I think about retirement, people have this stereotype that they're just going to enjoy their life. And and enjoyment is wonderful, but if you're not active, the things that we identify in terms of neuroplasticity and brain health and maintaining brain health are things like novel learning. So you need to plan. Well, once I'm no longer working and the hours of my day aren't taken up by the demands of my work, what will I be doing? And it might be things at this top tier that we all want to do and that are very good for our brain. Things like travel and taking classes and learning languages and playing instruments and all these, wonderful things that many people aspire to. And of course, you can do that. But if you're not thoughtful about it, you won't have saved for travel. You won't be thinking, well, I don't live in an area by an educational organization. How am I going to take classes? And you may not be prepared to take online classes. You may not be excited about learning Spanish again. So thinking about that idea of using your brain and continuing to have novel learning, if you don't if you aren't thoughtful about that, that might not just happen naturally. And it's the same idea about planning for a social life after retirement. There's this curve, and Ali just did a video. I don't know if you saw it, but he looked at the different curves of our relationships throughout life. And he was saying that, when you're in work relationships take up a lot of your time. And so he emphasized this idea that, well, you should try to choose your coworkers and spend time with people who are positive and uplifting and so on. Well, with that curve, it's very strong during your working years, and then it dramatically decreases, obviously, because you're not working anymore. So if you're not planful and you haven't developed a social network of people outside of work, when the retirement party's done and everybody wishes you well and they go back to work, but you don't, your social circle is gone. And it's very difficult because the people who are still working don't have time to go golf with you all the time. They're busy working.
Yeah.
So you really need to be expanding that idea. And one of the other graphs that Ollie looked at was family life and how the time with your children peaks when they're young and it continues to decline over time. So you need to take advantage of when you have family contact, but also continue to facilitate this idea. Well, if I'm going to retire, do I live near my children? Do I want that to be one of my bigger social contacts? Am I not ready for that yet? And I have other social contacts. But again, it takes planning, because if you don't do that and you just expect it to magically appear, it may not, and you won't do as well.
Yeah. And what about like ginkgo biloba? Does it help in mental health?
So this is a great question. There's so many supplements. I think I heard the other day, and I think I was Ollie talking about this again, that he was interviewing somebody, and he said, the reason that supplements are so much more popular than the quick fix. Give me a pill, give me a this. And exercise takes a long time. We know the neuroprotective effects of exercise. If you want the best way to promote this idea of neuroplasticity, it's aerobic exercise. And there's even research that says, yes, you can get benefit right away. You can do small amounts of exercise and your memory works better. Your mood improves, your sleep improves. So even small amounts right away can do something. But nobody thinks about it that way. They think about, well, what supplement can I take? Even when I do um, YouTube videos on nutrition, and I say, oh, okay, make sure if you're following the Mind diet or some of the other ways of eating that are especially good for brain health, they like certain things. They like fish for omega-3 fatty acids. And inevitably, people say, well, can I just take a supplement for that? Fish oil. I take fish oil. So, it's not necessarily that supplements are bad. And there is some research saying some supplements can actually be helpful. But what often happens, what the research does suggest, or they haven't looked at in the research, is whether or not people are deficient in that particular thing that they're trying to supplement before they take the supplement. For example, vitamin B12 or vitamin D, if you are deficient in those things and you take them, magically your brain works better. And they say, wow, vitamin D is good for brain health and vitamin B12 is good for brain health. Well, yes, it can be if you started out deficient. But a lot of times, when people are trying to supplement brain health, like ginkgo biloba or all these other things, there's not necessarily research saying it's bad for you, but there isn't necessarily high quality research saying it makes a difference. So I always like to go back to the research and go, okay, what does the research suggest actually works? We have so much great research on exercise works, and eating well works, and sleeping better works, and using your brain works. There's some small studies suggesting sometimes things might work, and people are very interested in this. We continue to need good research studies to look and see, well, are there things that can actually help? But for the most part, if you really want to invest in your brain, I would suggest investing in the things that have more research behind them, like the behavioral things that we can do.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And we move on, like we are heading like more and more like aging people. The percentage is getting bigger and bigger, especially the developed countries. Like, any comments on that? Like, what are the things that we need to move on? Like this group of people, what in the future? Like, what are the prospect? Like, what are the things that they need to do? What are the government that they have implemented for this group of people?
Yeah, though it's a significant phenomena that the population is aging. And there are countries in the world where this is a very big problem, that they are getting older and the birth rate is falling, which means that there will be more and more of a burden on the younger people to be able to support the older generation. And most of the countries aren't set up to accommodate for that yet. So, they're really struggling in countries like Japan and, places where there are a lot of people who are aging and it's becoming much more evident more quickly. They're going into overgear trying to figure out, well, what do we do with that? So there's a lot of, why is this happening? Well, medicine is getting better. We're living longer. We're combating more diseases. So, there's a lot of wonderful reasons why we're living longer. But in terms of the implications of that, there's implications across the board. I mean, financially, obviously, there's implications for being able to support an aging population and not having a workforce and not having the younger generation to come up. But just in terms of caregiving, and dementia. And there are more and more people that are going to need care, and our societies aren't set up to be able to provide that care. And then we also have this conundrum where in many of the societies like the United States, aging is a bad word. We are all anti-aging. Everything is, get younger and look younger and be younger and don't have gray hair and don't do this and don't do that and get rid of your wrinkles and pretend like you're younger. So we tend to dislike the idea of aging and we hide from the idea of aging. We take our older people and we put them in institutions. We tend not to talk about it or think about it. Nobody wants to think about death or dying because it's a scary, terrible thing. When it's, one of the very few things that we all have in common. We all experience this and it is a natural part of life. So there's so much cultural shift that needs to happen in terms of embracing aging. And some cultures do a much better job of this, of honoring our elders and interacting with them and valuing the experience with them and valuing the wisdom that they bring. There's another shortage, a dramatic shortage in the amount of providers who are qualified to treat older people. And so this is a severe problem in the United States where, we really struggle to attract people to be able to learn how and be qualified to treat older adults. Because again, there's the stigma of aging as so terrible and scary and bad, but also the reimbursement rates aren't as good, aren't as favorable for working with geriatrics. So there's a lot of systemic problems in terms of attracting people to this field and then encouraging them to understand that the idea of aging can actually be very positive and very rewarding in working with older adults.
Okay. And then one of your videos, you were mentioning about nursing home, like try to avoid to go into nursing home. Maybe you can describe more on that.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've spent time with people who are aging or not, but if you ever say to them, what would you like to have happen as you age? Do you want to stay home or would you like to go live in a facility? Virtually never do you hear people say, "Yay, sign me up for the facility. This sounds wonderful." The entire world seems to say, I never want to go to a facility. I always want to stay home. This is the only place I want to be. And yet, when we look at the reality of it, people generally can't, they don't plan for the future of what's going to happen for them. And if they are thinking about it at all, a lot of times it's this blind desire to stay home without looking at the realities of how that might happen. So without planning, and I have several videos on this idea of intentional dependence, and how if we don't embrace the fact that sooner or later we have to have help, we will need help, and we must have a plan around how we want that help. And if we don't do that, eventually when we need the help, we'll lose our choices. That we will be forced to have help, and it won't be in the way that we want it, oftentimes in the form of a nursing home. The particular video that you're referencing, though, was an ode to this idea that if you don't want to go to the nursing home, one of the main things that you can do is really take care of yourself. And in this video in particular, I highlight the dangers of falling because as we get older, our muscle mass decreases, our bone density decreases, our flexibility and balance decreases. So, if we're not physically active and we're not thoughtful about what we're doing as we age, we will inevitably fall, and falls are incredibly common. And when people fall, getting significantly injured is incredibly common. So when you get injured, you have to go potentially break a hip and you go in for surgery. And after surgery, you're sent to a facility to recover. And people often never go home. So, really being proactive about how do we promote physical health and safety and mental health. And one of the ideas that I highlight in that particular video is the use of Tai Chi. And there's wonderful research about for older adults in particular that as they practice Tai Chi over time, especially as it gets closer to this magic number of 50 sessions of Tai Chi, which you can do twice a week or once a week or as many, in whatever frequency you want. But as you do that, it can really make a difference not only in terms of your balance and your ability to not fall, but also in your fear of falling. And so they looked at that as a separate factor because when people are fearful of falling, they start restricting activities. They quit going out, they quit doing things, they quit socializing, they quit engaging in all these activities. And we know that is the opposite of what we want. That we want people to be active and involved in moving their bodies and not sitting still because they're afraid of falling. So all of these things combine to say that being proactive, engaging in things like Tai Chi and so on can prevent falls and prevent you from ending up in a nursing home.
So does it tell us that by doing Tai Chi, it improve your confidence?
Yes, exactly. It improves your confidence and it decreases your fear of falling. In particular, that's the variable that they looked at. And when you decrease your fear of falling and you're actually increasing your balance and strength and so on, that combination is really magical in terms of your body working better and not experiencing a fall and remaining engaged in life.
And for like Tai Chi, just now you mentioned 50 session, like per session, like how long? 1 hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, I think they looked at it wasn't 2 hours. I think they looked at anywhere from maybe 30 minutes to an hour. I can't quite remember what the study said, but it wasn't extensive or really excessive versions of classes. And these are classes, you can of course join groups and there's different ways of achieving, these different sessions, but you can also do it online. So even if you're not near a place that has Tai Chi, or there's more and more places that do Tai Chi specifically for older adults here in the Portland area, we have several different places that offer that. But even if you don't have access to that, I put on my on that particular video and put links to how can you find resources to be able to access it even if you're not near one of those centers.
Besides Tai Chi, what about meditation and yoga?
Magical. I mean, I'm really a proponent of holistic health. And,
Um,
all of these things are aspects of holistic health. So, in some of my videos, I talk about the benefits in particular of mindfulness. And I don't know how familiar people are with mindfulness, but an ancient Buddhist practice or technique that we don't have to be Buddhist to practice. But there's more and more research behind this idea that by utilizing mindfulness techniques and practicing this, they use it for treatment of cancer, for chronic pain, for there's manualized treatments for depression and anxiety. They use it for helping children focus better. They use it for providers so that we connect with our patients better. They use it for police officers. I mean, across the board, the research is really wonderful that these disciplines, yoga, in terms of this mind body connection and meditations, different forms of that. So, with mindfulness in particular, it's strengthening this skill of paying attention. Where is my mind? And any given moment, when people want to pay attention, if we don't have any specialized training, for most people, you can focus for 15 to 30 seconds before your mind is off. And it's usually thinking about all the junk that happened in the past and how regretful we are. And I can't believe that happened. And that was so terrible. Or all of the anxieties and worries about the future and what's going to happen and how do we plan and how do we fix it and solve it. So, this monkey mind, as it's referred to, comes in and kind of hijacks us and carts us away so that we're not appreciating and fully living our lives. And with mindfulness practice, we strengthen that skill or that ability to notice in a very compassionate and loving way. So it's not, oh, I can't believe I'm so stupid. Here's my monkey mind again, and I'm so dumb and I'm so bad at this. Not that, but really a gentle, soft, hey, monkey mind, I see you. I see where you're coming. I'm seeing what you're doing. And then you get the choice. If you want to think about those things, absolutely you can. It's absolutely your prerogative. You can think about anything you want. But if you would rather taste your food or relate to your loved one or read the book or watch the movie or enjoy your shower, I don't know how many people sit and ruminate in the shower, but actually enjoy the shower, you get the opportunity to do that because you've been training your mind to be more aware of where it's going. It's really has so many beneficial health outcomes.
And we have in the PTYA, like, how do you want to make use of this PTYA to move on with your YouTube channel?
PTYA was magical. It was really magical. It was just so beneficial. Before PTYA, I have a lot of ideas and a lot of excitement about what I'm doing, but I was very naive for so many aspects of how do you get more efficient and how do you do it well. And, it just was really amazing. And it was also a wonderful opportunity to connect with people like you and like so many other, people who are in the community. So the fact that we have learned so much and that there are so many resources that continue to be available to us, I all I need is 1,000 more hours a day to sit down and actually digest this information and continue to apply it and continue to connect with people and collaborate. So I certainly intend on going to Austin for the first meetup at the end
Mm.
of or the beginning of June. But I
Yeah.
really want to keep capitalizing on all of the information that they gave us to continue to develop and to grow a community. And it's really that sense of community and connection and taking what we have to offer people, our own unique, special gifts and talents and perspectives. Like they said, everything's already been done. So it's not new information, but a new take on the information, a way that people might identify with the information in a way that really serves them better. So I am just thrilled to be able to continue to utilize all of those ideas that they've given us to be able to continue to build community and identify who exactly are my target audience, who's out there right now. Interestingly, most of the people who watch my videos range from about 55 years old and older, and they're
Oh.
primarily women.
Oh.
And so it's an older set of women potentially who are caregivers themselves, who might be thinking about their own brain health and brain health of their loved ones. So really identifying, that my target audience and what they're looking for and how I can serve that. As a doctor, I only have so many hours. It's a terrible thing. I am horribly booked out. I can't see enough people one on one. But with our YouTube channels, we can reach millions of people. And that is
True.
really inspiring for me to be able to capture information and deliver it in a way that might really touch many more people than I can individually.
Okay, let's wrap things up. Like, what are the take-home message that you want to give to your audience?
Well, if we're thinking about my audience, is this my audience that we're thinking about, or are we thinking about? Tell me which audience we're thinking about.
In general,
Yeah,
like both of
in
this,
general.
like, yeah.
Yeah, from my background in training, we can do so much. If my message is about brain health and people are very concerned and worried and oftentimes overly focused on genetics, there's a gene that's very worrisome for Alzheimer's disease, the ApoE4 gene. And there are two alleles of that, and you can have one or two of them that put you at higher risk. I have one of them personally, so I'm at higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. And many people look at that or look at their family histories and say, "Well, I'm doomed. I'm going to get dementia. I'm doomed. There's nothing I can do about it. So I might as well live my wild life now and just give up." And there is just so much that we can do. There is data suggesting that we can prevent around half of the cases of dementia just based on our behaviors, on things that are completely controllable by us. And that dementia doesn't start when you're 60 or 70 or 80, but it starts in your younger years, in your 20s and 30s, and it slowly changes brain functioning over time. So we all need to be really proactive if we care to have this bright, wonderful future and current functioning, to be proactive in doing things now. And that's what I hope we can do together in the community, is to figure those things out and share our struggles with them, because we're all aging. We're all doing this together.
For those that want to learn more about Amy's Fridays YouTube channel, check out the link below at the description box. Amy, thank you so much for your time. I
Absolutely. It's such a
appreciate
pleasure.
yeah. Thank you very much.
All right.
I see
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
All
I see you next time.
right.
Bye.
Bye bye.